Your surrender, sir.
I will never surrender. I'm not afraid.
Jamie Fraser was supposed to die. Episode 10, Ending. Outlander Season 8, Claire didn't pray. She didn't beg. She didn't just hold his hand and cry. She did something that drained every single ounce of life from her own body to pull him back from the other side. And when she finally succeeded, her hair had turned completely white. Jamie opened his eyes and took a breath. And I haven't been the same since. But here's the thing, Jamie's death is only one piece of this puzzle, because this finale was hiding so much more underneath the surface, and most people completely missed it. Jamie spent the entire season carrying the weight of a death sentence written by a man who loved Claire before he ever did. Frank's book wasn't just a warning, it was a countdown, and the writers made sure we felt every single second of it ticking. From the moment Season 8 began building toward the Battle of King's Mountain, there was this unbearable tension underneath every scene Jamie shared with the people he loved. Because we all knew, he knew, and yet he kept moving forward anyway, which honestly made it so much harder to watch. What hit differently this time was how prepared Jamie actually was. He didn't fall apart, he didn't rage against it. He sat down, wrote his will, and started putting the people he loved in order before walking into a battle he believed he wasn't coming back from. He left Brianna almost every inch of land he owned, and then he left William his whiskey and his Bible. The whiskey makes sense, but the Bible? That detail quietly wrecked me. Because Jamie wasn't just leaving William something to remember him by. He was leaving him something to hold on to when the grief became too heavy. He was thinking about William's soul, not just his feelings. That's the kind of man Jamie Fraser is. And that's exactly why losing him would have destroyed not just Claire, but every single person watching. The goodbyes he made before walking into that battle were the kind that linger. Not dramatic, not drawn out, just real. The kind of goodbye where everyone in the room knows it might be the last one, but nobody says it out loud because saying it out loud makes it true. And Jamie carried all of that with a steadiness that was almost painful to witness. He had accepted it. He had made peace with it. And for a brief, breathtaking moment after the battle, it looked like maybe the universe had made peace with it too, and decided to let him live. He survived the battle. He was standing, he was breathing, and you could see it on his face, that pure disbelief, like a man who had stared death down and actually won. For just a second, the show let us believe it too, and that second of hope made everything that followed so much more devastating. Because just as Jamie allows himself that moment of relief, General Ferguson shoots him. And just like that, the man who had survived wars, time travel, betrayal, and heartbreak beyond measure was gone. What made that moment land so hard wasn't just the shot. It was Claire feeling it happen in real time. She had told Fanny earlier in the season that she and Jamie were tied to each other by heart, and the show made sure we understood that wasn't just a beautiful thing to say, it was literal. The second Jamie was hit, Claire felt it in her body before she even saw it happen. She ran up that hill already knowing what she was going to find, and when she found him lying there, gone, her grief wasn't performed. It was raw and quiet and completely gutting. I'm not going to pretend I didn't cry, because I absolutely did, and I think anyone who has followed this show from the beginning would have. But here is where the finale stopped being just an emotional farewell, and became something far more extraordinary. Because Claire didn't just sit beside him and grieve, she stayed. She laid down next to him through the entire night. And by morning, something had shifted. Something that the show had been quietly building toward for longer than most of us realized. Claire had resurrected a baby earlier in the season, and it had taken her seconds. But Jamie took hours. And the difference in that time tells you everything you need to know about what Claire was actually doing in those hours beside him. This wasn't a miracle handed to her. This was Claire pushing herself past every limit she had ever had, reaching into something ancient and consuming inside of her, and using every last piece of it to pull Jamie back from the edge of a death that was already written into history. The Cherokee woman had told her she would reach her full potential one day, and the white hair that appeared by morning was the proof that she had finally crossed that threshold and burned through every reserve she had doing it. She didn't just bring Jamie back. She rewrote destiny. She changed what was supposed to happen, and the cost of doing that was written all over her. So the question that nobody seems to be asking loudly enough is this: If Claire just changed history by bringing back a man who was destined to die, what does that mean for everything that comes after? And more importantly, was this the only time she ever did it? Now let's talk about something that has been sitting in the back of every Outlander fan's mind since the very first episode aired: Jamie's ghost. Because this wasn't just a throwaway moment the writers added to give the finale some emotional weight. This was the answer to a question the show planted over a decade ago and made us carry with us through 8 entire seasons. And the answer, when it finally came, was so much bigger than any theory I had ever come across. Cast your mind back to the very beginning, before Claire ever touched the stones at Craignadoon, before she ever met Jamie Fraser, before any of it. There was a young Scottish soldier standing outside a window in 1945, watching a woman he had never met, with an expression on his face that was so full of something that people spent years trying to name it. Was it longing? Recognition? Love? Nobody could quite put their finger on it because none of it made logical sense. How could a man from the 18th century be standing outside a window in 1945 watching Claire Randall go about her evening? And why did he look at her like she was the most important thing he had ever laid eyes on? The show let that mystery breathe for years. It never rushed toward an answer. It just let it sit there, quietly pulling at the edges of everything, reminding you every so often that there was something unresolved waiting at the foundation of this entire story. And the finale paid it off in a way that I genuinely did not see coming, even though looking back, every single piece of it was already there. When we see Jamie's ghost in the final episode, he is young, and that detail is everything. Because if this ghost had appeared at the time of his death at the Battle of King's Mountain, he would have been old. He lived a full life beside Claire. He aged. But the ghost we see is the Jamie of the early seasons. Young, sharp-eyed, and completely certain about what he is doing. Which means what we are watching is not a ghost appearing at the moment of his death. What we are watching is the very first time Jamie ever wandered through time as a ghost. We are watching the moment from episode 1 finally explained. And the timeline of it, when you actually sit with it, is staggering. Jamie died at Culloden, not at King's Mountain, not at the end, at Culloden, long before Claire ever found him, long before their life together was built. Jamie's spirit slipped through time and went straight to her. He found her in 1945 before she had any idea he existed, before she had any reason to go to those stones, before any of the events that defined her entire life had been set in motion. And he stood outside that window and watched her with a smile that now, finally, makes complete and total sense. Because he already knew her. He had already lived an entire life loving her. He had already died for her and beside her. And even in death, the first thing he did was find her. Think about what that actually means for a moment. Jamie Fraser, in whatever form exists after death, did not rest. He did not wander aimlessly. He crossed centuries, found the woman he loved in a time she had no reason to be connected to him yet, and watched over her. And then he did something even more remarkable. He went to the stones. He touched them. And as he did, forget-me-nots bloomed right there beside Craignadoon. Now here is where it gets deeply beautiful, in a way that reframes the entire show from the very beginning. Those flowers were not random. Jamie knew Claire. He knew her love of botany. He knew that she noticed things other people walked past. He knew that a specific, unusual bloom appearing beside ancient stones would pull at her curiosity in a way that nothing else could. So he placed them there deliberately. He made sure they were there waiting for her. And sure enough, in the very first episode, it is those flowers that draw Claire to the stones. Not just the stones themselves, the flowers first, and then the stones, and then everything that followed. Jamie Fraser essentially engineered the beginning of his own love story from beyond death. He made sure the woman he had already loved and lost would find her way back to him. He created the breadcrumb trail that led Claire directly into his arms across 2 centuries. And the forget-me-nots were not just a sweet visual callback. They were a message. Remember me. Find me. Come back to me. He chose that flower specifically because by the end of the final episode, just before he walks into the battle, he asks Claire to remember him. And now those flowers carry both meanings at once. The ones he planted as a ghost to guide her to him, and the ones she holds in her heart as a promise she made to him before he walked away. The layers of that are almost too much to hold all at once. Because it means that from the very first moment Claire ever set foot near those stones, Jamie was already there, already involved, already in love with her, and working to bring her to him. The show that began with a woman stumbling accidentally through time was never accidental at all. Jamie made sure of it. And the fact that we spent 8 seasons thinking Claire found Jamie, when in reality, Jamie had already found Claire and quietly arranged everything, that realization hits like an absolute freight train. And what makes it even more emotionally precise is the name of the flower itself, Forget-Me-Not. In a show about time, memory, loss, and the terrifying possibility of losing the person you love to the passage of years and centuries, the Forget-Me-Not is not just a pretty detail. It is the emotional thesis of the entire series compressed into a single image. Do not forget me, no matter what time does to us, no matter how far apart we end up, no matter which century you wake up in. Do not forget me. And Claire never did, not once. But here is something that I have not seen enough people talking about. If Jamie's ghost was young when he appeared outside Claire's window in 1945, and if that appearance happened after his death at Culloden, it means Jamie spent however long it took wandering through time as a spirit to reach her. Which raises a question that the show does not fully answer, but absolutely implies. Did Jamie know, even at Culloden, that Claire existed somewhere in the future? Did he die holding on to her the way a person holds on to something they are not ready to let go of yet? And if so, was his ghost at Craignadoon not just an act of love, but an act of pure refusal to accept that their story was over?